For thousands of years, we've been under the impression the Bible was meant to be taken seriously. Finally, a new translation that'll change all that. This is Oh My God, What the Fuck Bible!
Reach out, touch faith.
Yeah, welcome to episode 14 of Oh My God, What the Fuck Bible with me, David Tuckman, coming to you from the Magnet Theater in front of a live audience. Each month on the show, a guest joins me and tries to read as many chapters as possible of my own personal translation of the Old Testament from the original Hebrew while I make fun of it. Today is Monday, November 4th, 2014. It's a very, very special day. This is an unplanned special episode. Let's just get right to our guest. Let's bring our guest out. Are you guys ready for your guest? Yeah. So originally, we had planned to have Steve Wells on the show tonight, the author of the Skeptics Annotated Bible, which I'm holding in my hand right now, an incredible project where he went through the entire Bible, including the New Testament, which to me as a Jew is like the not real Testament, but whatever. And he annotated it and wrote every single crazy thing and contradiction and weird thing that God does in it or that any character does in it. And it's published in a beautiful hardbound volume that I'm holding up to our crowd right now. He also had another book that just came out recently called Drunk with Blood, God's Killings in the Bible, where he goes through each and every time God kills somebody in the Bible. And somebody's cheering for that, comes up with a tally of about 25 million, I think. So that's what's in this book. He can't make it tonight, but in his stead, all of these books are published by a company called Skeptics Annotated Bible Books. We have tonight his son and the manager of SAB Books, Phillip Wells. Let's hear it for him. Welcome, Phillip. How you doing? He's coming up to the mic.
Hello.
Here he is. He came through the door. One of the reasons I love the Magnet Theater, there's a door on stage. I missed it on my way out, which is a big problem. How are you, Phil?
Oh, I'm good.
Good. Let's talk about these books because, you know, this is a crazy project, and I'm just wondering your perspective on your father working on this. First of all, you know, apparently you've been on the road for 2 weeks.
We have.
Yeah. Where do you live? I know you're not from New York.
Moscow, Idaho.
Wow. So you're in town very briefly. What are you guys doing on the East Coast?
We're recording this episode.
You came all the way here just for this?
We did. And also we went to Georgia, where we just recently got the Skeptics Annotated Bible placed side by side the Gideon Bibles in the hotel rooms at a state park. The idea there was that really at a state park there shouldn't be a Gideon Bible endorsement of religion. So someone from the American Atheists complained, and they said, "Well, if you want to put your literature in there, go right ahead." So we offered to donate 100 copies of the Skeptics Annotated Bible to put it right next to the Gideon Bible as an alternative.
Awesome.
So we stopped by and checked that out. And we went to Little Rock, Arkansas, we went to a convention there, and we thought, well, we might as well keep going to New York City. It's just another...
You're just on the East Coast.
1,400 miles.
May as well drive 2 more days. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here to record this show with me, to read a bit of the Bible with me. You know, I like to talk to my guests about religion and its impact on their lives, if any. Are you religious, Phil?
No, I am an atheist.
Okay. Were you raised that way? I would imagine.
I was baptized when I was 1, and then Steve, my dad, became an atheist, and so I was an atheist at 2.
So what was that like for you as a 2-year-old?
It was hard.
Yeah.
You know, giving up so much.
You had gotten so used to those beliefs by that point.
Right.
So everyone always says you're born an atheist, but you weren't. You were born...
I guess I was born
a Catholic.
A Catholic.
What's it like? I grew up religious, and I think many of my listeners did. What was it like, say for 1 year, growing up in a household raised by atheists?
Well, we grew up in Pocatello, Idaho, which is pretty close to the border of Utah, and it's kind of it's Mormon country.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it was a little bit strange. I didn't know too many other non-believers, but mainly the difference was we didn't go to church on Sunday. and we didn't pray before the meals. So
Right.
I would go to my friend's house for, and have dinner over there, and I wouldn't, they would be praying, and I would just sort of look down. But other than that,
But how did you know good from bad?
that is a good question. Well, I don't think that, I'm not sure what any of us do, But if you look at that book for, the Bible for your morality, then you got problems.
That's a really good point. Or the response to everything is just flood the place. So you don't believe in God, do you?
No.
Okay. If you had, and I have questions here that were written for Steve a little bit. If you had a conception of God, could you tell me what you don't believe in, if that makes sense?
I don't believe in, a divine man in the sky who's pulling the strings.
Yeah. I like talking to people about what their conceptions of the idea of God is, because I think that's something that,
yes.
is kind of handed to people in religion, but we don't really, there are different ideas of it that people talk about, but it's not something that's really discussed publicly. It's sort of like, God did this, is this, loves you, whatever. But what is it really? I don't know, so...
Well, the idea of someone who knows everything and is all-powerful,
Okay.
I think that's what I don't believe in.
Okay, cool.
But I was just reading the Bhagavad Gita.
Right.
We were reading that out loud on the road. And that is kind of, the Krishna, God is kind of a different take on the God character. And so that was interesting to read about.
What was the Krishna character like?
Well, the Bhagavad Gita, it starts with there's Krishna, and there's a young prince, Arjuna, and he is about to fight in this war. And the whole story is a conversation between him and Krishna when they go into the middle and they look out upon the opposing army, and Arjuna sees his family and friends out, in the army, and he says, "Oh, I don't want to fight in this war anymore. I can't kill my family, my friends." And then the whole book is Krishna explaining why he should go out and fight and kill people. And so it's it's his duty. He's not really killing the people. He is he doesn't have the power to take away life. Only Krishna has that power.
Because their life is transferred to another.
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's the morals of that idea. Then you could kill anyone you want, essentially. So I thought that was a different idea of God, just changing where the souls are in different in reincarnation.
That's a fun idea, that you could just kill whoever you want because it doesn't actually matter.
Maybe fun for you.
Not by fun, I mean creepy. So you've seen your father work on this project. How long has he been doing it?
He's been doing it for about 22 years.
Wow.
So about as long as I've been. He had a moment when I was about 1 year old, maybe 1.5, where all of a sudden he had all these questions about that he had never really thought about as much as he should have. The existence of God, the existence of hell. These ideas that. We were on a camping trip, and all of a sudden it was just actually me and my mom and him, and he all of a sudden was in the car and said, I can't believe it anymore. I'm not going to church. It was Saturday. He said, I'm not going to church tomorrow. And so then he proceeded to talk to my mom, for the next week or two, because they were traditionalist Catholic. And so he ended up convincing her to, not be Catholic anymore either.
Wow.
So, but anyway, after that, he went through the Bible with a highlighter,
right.
And he highlighted different things that he thought were, well, at first he just highlighted things he thought were interesting, and then he highlighted things he thought were cruel, and then he highlighted things he thought were misogynistic, and dealt with homosexuality and contradictions, and by the end he had this King James version of the Bible that was just filled with highlighter stuff, and he thought, someone should... Why hasn't anyone else done this before? Has anyone else read this book? And so then he made a website.
No.
He sent it off to some publishers and made a website. And then finally, I kind of became involved because he printed it off, about 1,600 pages on printer paper, and was trying to edit it and put it together himself, and didn't know how to find a printer or do anything, and I didn't either, but, I just said, well, it looks like you need some help here, and we kind of started a business together.
Wow. So you've been really involved in this process, at least more recently, in getting this thing into print.
Yeah, when I was a kid, it was just always my dad over there on the corner in the computer for 6 hours at a time, always kind of wondering what he was up to. But yeah, in the last 2 years, I've been full-time at this. And, working on the design stuff, the distribution, sales, printing, just pretty much just kind of everything.
I really like this bound version of it because it's printed on Bible paper, which is really great. It feels like a Bible.
I thought
just
that was
with
important.
That little margin added. What other projects do you have in the future? It's interesting because you grew up atheist, but you're also very well read in terms of religious text.
It is interesting. I was we're working on the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
Is one of the next ones. We're working on a book called Strange Flesh, What the Bible Says About Homosexuality, which has been just an awesome project. It's been really fun to edit and try to put it together because there's so many conflicting arguments about. There's people saying, God hates fags over here, and, and people really who still think that we should stone and burn to death homosexuals, and that is just crazy,
it's
right?
Not nice.
But then, on the other hand, there are people who are saying that, that Jesus was gay, that Joseph was gay because he wore a coat with many colors, that the three wise men were gay.
We'll get to that in a few months. I have some problems with that.
The three wise men were gay because they had the foresight to go shopping beforehand.
No, people actually say that.
People actually say this in, scholarly books that they're hidden away because they just mention it in passing, and you think, what are you talking about? So there's that God was gay, that, is gay. It's just, anyway, so they go pretty far, and so it's fun to look at that and cite the original source you're getting it from.
Yeah.
And then, that's a project.
That should be interesting.
But, yeah, as far as, my, experience with religions, I'm interested in it. I've never been religious exactly, but whenever I get the chance, it's just on the subway, yesterday I was talking to 2 Mormon missionaries, because whenever I get the chance, I just, am talking about religion, so here I am.
Yeah. In your reading of it, you've read so much of this stuff, or you read of all of this stuff. Do you have one story or one character that sticks out to you, that's your favorite, that's stuck with you?
I really like Samson.
Mm-hmm.
He is... He's a fascinating character.
Yes, he is. I've been seeing a lot of tweets. I keep searching in Twitter for Comedian Bible because it was using a tweet about me. And there's this joke I keep seeing. Who's the best comedian in the Bible? Samson, because he brought the house down.
Hey, at least I laughed for you.
No, that's not my joke. I do not take ownership of that. So what do you like about Samson?
There's just so many, there's him, killing all the people with the jawbone of the ass,
yes.
And then using it as a drinking fountain right afterwards because
he's a badass.
Water came
awesome.
out of the jawbone. I think that's great. And then he's tying foxtails together and lighting them on fire and destroying people's fields, and then he gets his hair, chopped off. They're binding his hands, and he keeps breaking them apart. And he's
like the John McClane of the Bible, I think.
Yes.
I have one more question. I find you very pleasant to speak to. Yesterday we had brunch. You were very nice. You're very pleasant. Here now, I think the audience would agree. They don't hate you. Why aren't you more evil?
What is there to gain by being evil?
That's a great answer. Okay, are you guys ready to hear the Bible? Yeah. Okay, so previously in the Bible, all that creation stuff went down. The flood, penis chopping, you know the drill. Yitzchak, Abraham's son, had 2 kids, Yaakov and Esav. Esav wanted to kill Yaakov, so Yaakov ran to his uncle's house and made it with his cousin, some other ladies too. He worked for Laban for 14 years for the honor of that baby-making and only took a whole lot of blemished sheep as payment. This is Torah, a loose translation, in the beginning, chapter 25, in which Yaakov runs away from his father-in-law.
Laban's sons gossiped, and Yaakov heard everything. Yaakov took all of our father's stuff, they said. Any honor he has comes from our father's wealth. Yaakov also noticed that Laban's face had changed.
His nose was on the top now, and his eyes had switched places.
Go back to your father's country, your birthplace, Yehovah said to Yaakov. I'll be there with you.
According to Rashi, who I quote often and is a fun guy, a medieval Jewish scholar, God said, not captured here for whatever reason, you have to leave Lavan because he is impure. I can't be with you while you're around him. God is very much an abusive spouse.
Yaakov called Rachel and Leah to his field, where his sheep were. I saw your dad's face, he told them. It doesn't look like it did many yesterdays ago. My father's God is with me.
Why is Yaakov talking like he's a wizard?
You know that I've worked for your father with all of my strength, but he has cheated me and changed my wages tons of times. But God has not let me hurt your dad.
God has not let me hurt him, which means he's just been dying to beat that guy up.
Everything went my way. If Yavan said, the dotted ones are yours, then all the sheep had dotted kids. If Yavan said that the streaked ones are yours, then all the sheep had streaked kids.
Now, I thought that was because the whole the whole stick trick where he put striped sticks in front of the water, but maybe it was just God.
God took your father's livestock and gave it to me. During the mating season, I looked up and had a vision. He-goats were mounting the flock sexually.
Weird dream, dude.
They were streaked, dotted, and striped. Yaakov, one of God's messengers said to me, Here I am, I said. Check it out, the messenger said. All the he-goats humping the flock are streaked, spotted, and striped. Isn't that nuts? It's because I saw everything Yavan did to you. I am the God from the house of El, where you poured oil on a pillar and swore allegiance to me.
Remember back in 21 when Yaakov dreamt about the ladder and decided he was in God's house and then put a pile of rocks together and poured oil over it? That's just context for it. Also, originally, like 3 sentences ago, this was a messenger, and now it's speaking in the first person as though it's Yehovah. Also, one last thing, it's weird that he tells his ladies about this and says that it's in a dream when just last page, at least according to this, Yehovah spoke directly to him.
Now get up, get out of here, and go back where you came from. Don't we still deserve a part of our father's estate? Rachel and Leah asked. Since we were sold to you, he treats us like strangers. Any wealth God gave you from him belongs to us and our children by right. Whatever God said to you, we'll do.
They seem surprisingly okay with running away from their father's home. Also, the fact that they're like, hey, our father's property belongs to us seems really progressive for what's been the fact that they were given his property to Yaakov.
Yaakov packed up his sons, wives, and camels. He drove off with all of his livestock and the stuff he'd collected during his time in Padam Aram, headed to his father Yitzchak in Canaan. When Yavan left to shear his sheep, Rachel stole his household idols.
Apparently back then, people just kept small idols around the house in case they were in a room and wanted to worship. Some people believe that Rachel stole them because she didn't want Lavan to worship other gods and wanted him to worship Yehovah and figured that he was too lazy to go back to the store and buy some more idols, so he just switched religions. It's also possible that she wanted to pray to them.
Yaakov stole Lavan's heart. He didn't tell him they were leaving.
Oh, back then, stealing someone's heart is not a nice thing to do.
Yaakov left with everything he had, rose up and crossed the river, and then set off towards Mount Gilead.
By the way, Yaakov had massive flocks that God gave him, as we know from previous chapters. Tons of property, at least 4 women. There may be more that we don't even know about. A whole lot of children, and who knows how many slaves. So he didn't sneak out, I don't think. That's chapter 25. I think we can do one more. You guys ready for chapter 26? This is 26, in which Lavan chases Yaakov down and gives him a very severe talking to.
3 days later, someone told Lavan that Yaakov left.
So, maybe that plan that they hatched where Lavan and Yaakov are separated a 3 days walk wasn't the greatest idea.
He got his brothers together, and for 7 days they chased after Yaakov. They finally caught up with him near Mount Gilead. That night, God came to Lavan and Arami in a dream.
His ethnicity matters right now for some reason.
Whether what you say is good or bad, he said, watch yourself when you're talking to Yaakov. All right? All right. Lavan overtook Yaakov. Yaakov had pitched his tent on the mountain, and Lavan stationed his brothers in the Mount Gilead area. What did you do? Lavan said to Yaakov. You stole my heart.
Oh, no, that still means lying. Okay.
And you treated my daughters like prisoners of war.
They left willingly. What is he talking about? Also, I added Lavan said to Yaakov because there's no attribution here, and it looks like Lavan might just be rehearsing this in front of a mirror.
Why were you so devious? Why'd you run away and trick me? You didn't even let me give you a proper farewell, with singing, timbrel, and lyre.
Weird.
You didn't even let me kiss my daughters and sons goodbye. You did a very silly thing. I could really mess you up, Yaakov. But last night, your father's God told me, watch yourself when you're talking to Yaakov. So you ran off to your daughter's house because you were homesick. Fine. I can't say nothing about that. But why did you steal my tiny statues? I was afraid you might steal your daughters from me, Yaakov said.
Note once again, steal your daughters from me. These women are property.
But your idols? Whoever took your idols, they will not leave this place. With all your brothers watching, search what I have and take back what is yours. Yaakov didn't know Rachel stole the idols.
Thank you.
Lavan went into Yaakov's tent, then Leah's tent, then the tents of the 2 lady slaves. But he didn't find anything. He left Leah's tent and searched Rachel's tent. Rachel put the idols on a camel and sat on them. Lavan searched the whole tent and found nothing. Please, my lord, she said to her father, don't be mad I'm not getting up to say hello, but I'm on my period. So he searched and searched and could not find the idols.
I can't believe that worked. What?
But now, Yaakov was pretty pissed at Lavan. What did I do wrong, he said.
You mean, wait, besides not saying goodbye?
What was my sin? Why did you chase after me? Now that you've looked through all my things, what did you find? Put it here before all our brothers and let them decide.
Damn.
I was with you for 20 years, and in that whole time, not one of your ewes had a miscarriage, and I never ate your rams. If I never returned an animal to you mangled in any way. If an animal was taken by day or by night, I took the loss. By day I was ravaged by blazing heat, and by night I froze in the icy cold. Sleep was chased from my eyes.
Wow.
I spent 20 years working in your house. 14 of those were for your daughters, and 6 were for my flock. And through it all, you changed...
The sheep were cheaper than the daughters. Okay.
And through it all, you changed my wages 10 times. Without the God of my fathers, the God of Abraham and the dread of Yitzchak.
What? The dread?
You'd be sending me away penniless. God saw my objection and the work that I had done. That's why he told you off last night. The daughters are my daughters, Laban said, and your sons are my sons. The flock is my flock. Everything you see belongs to me. What would I do to my daughters, or to the sons they've had? Come, let's make a treaty, and there will be a witness between the two of us.
No. Come, let's make a treaty, and will be a witness between the two of us, because there is a word missing in the Hebrew.
Come, let's make a treaty, and will be a witness between the two of us.
My theory is, since God is invisible, the missing noun is God. Yes, God will be a witness.
Yaakov took a rock and made a pillar out of it. Gather some rocks, Yaakov told his kin. Everyone's got some rocks and made a big pile together. Then they had a picnic on the rock pile. Yvonne called the pile of rocks Yagir Shadahaduth, but Yaakov called it Gilead.
I have no idea what Yagar Shahaduta means, but Gal-Aid is Hebrew for pile witness.
This pile of rocks will witness our agreement, Lavan said. That's why it's called Gilead.
See?
The rock pile is also called the Mitzpah.
Oh my god, how many names does this rock pile have?
Because Lavan said, God will watch over us when we are separated from each other.
Mitzpah has the same root as the word for watching over, which is why it's called the Mitzpah.
If you, Yaakov, do not respond to my daughters,
With sex, by the way.
or take more women in addition to my daughters,
Originally, I had a joke where I was like, oh, also he has 2 lady slaves that he gets to fuck. But actually, according to Rashi, Lavan said daughters twice because Bilhah and Zilpah are also his daughters from some of his concubines.
even though no man is between us, God will see because he is a witness for both of us. Here is the pile of rocks, Lavan said to Yaakov, and here is the pillar I made.
Yaakov made the pillar.
This rock pile and pillar shall be witnesses. We agree that I will not cross this mound, and you will not cross this pile of rocks or this pillar in order to do evil. If we do, the God of Abraham and the God of Nachor, the God of our fathers, will judge us.
Nahor, as you recall, because you're all very attentive listeners, is Lavan's grandfather's name and also Avram's brother. It's also the name of Abraham's grandfather going way back up the line. Which Nahor is Lavan referring to? It doesn't matter.
Yaakov swore by his father Yitzchak's dread.
So supposedly the reference to dread here and a little earlier is happening because you're not supposed to refer to the God of someone who's still alive. I've read that somewhere, but that has totally happened in this book before. Maybe this is just the fear that Yitzchak constantly carries with him because his dad once tried to kill him.
Then he slaughtered a sacrifice on the mountain and called to his crew to eat bread. They did and slept on the mountain. Lavan got up in the morning, kissed his sons and daughters, blessed them, and went home. There's more.
Yeah.
It was such a good ending, though.
No, there's a better one. A place gets a name.
Yaakov and his enormous entourage continued on their way and met some of God's messengers. When I saw them, Yaakov said, I realized this was the camp of God.
Maybe he said this later. Who knows the timing of him just shouting this out.
He called the place Machanayim.
So, Hebrew translation, Machaneh means camp. So, Machanayim means super camp or something. Machanayim is also what Israeli kids call dodgeball. So, maybe it's Yaakov called the place Dodgeball, which I like much better. That's chapter 26! Oh, man. That was a fun one. A lot of politics and rock piles. Yaakov really likes rock piles, and I like that about him. Because what else are you going to do when you're living in the desert?
Oh, that's not a question.
It's not a question. You don't have to answer.
Dodgeball?
Dodgeball. Play dodgeball. Herd sheep around. So usually we have a segment here called the Devar Torah. We like to literally have a Torah word, which is what Devar Torah means, or a Torah thing. Phil, do you think you can sum up the 2 chapters that we just read into one single word?
Agreements?
Sure. Agreements. Mine was deceit. Because Yaakov does a lot of that. I was thinking recently that he's even though Lavan tricked him, he's a pretty deceptive guy. He tricked, he got Esav's birthright by selling him soup, and then he tricked his father into blessing him, and now he's just running away right under Lavan's nose. So he's a great guy.
And the 20 years, too, of work. 14
20
for the
years of work,
daughters
yeah.
and 6 for the flocks.
Yes. Just 6 for the flocks. He's been there for 20 years. I love how quickly time flies in stories like this, and people just rack up numbers in their ages like it's nothing, and just cross rivers and get into fights normally.
And minimum wage has changed 10 times.
Yes. Well, I like to think that, like, Lavan would just constantly change wages. Like one morning he'd come in and be like, Yaakov, I'm going to give you 5,000 goats a day. And then by noon he's just like, no, it's one. Sorry, got you again. But look, do you have any other final thoughts about this? Like just about tying all this stuff together that we've just read? What do you think about what Yaakov does? Because he does slip away, but is this theft?
Yes.
You think it's theft?
Yes.
Why do you think it's theft? Why do you think? Because there's an agreement earlier that these are his sheep. Why do you think that's theft?
Well, it's not necessarily theft, but you have the breeding with the spotted and
Yes.
and that it's, I guess, trickery would be a better word.
So I was thinking about this because I think your father mentioned something about it the other day, that Yaakov steals the lambs, and I've literally never in my life considered what he did stealing. And I think maybe that's the difference between the Catholic approach to this and the Jewish approach.
Yeah.
Because to you, it's like he took something that wasn't his. He snuck out. To me, Lavan made an investment. Yaakov collects the return. That's how it works. That's what you do. Why are you complaining? That's it for the show, I think. Is there anything you want to plug or anywhere that people can find you on the internet if they like to find your books or your father's books?
Sure. They could go to the website, the Skeptics AnnotatedBible.com, which is going to be updated soon. It's kind of old-fashioned, but it works. And then we have a blog called Dwindling in Unbelief, which is it's a phrase used in the Book of Mormon a lot, and we thought it was kind of cute. So. And
I didn't know that. I kept looking at that and trying to puzzle out where it came from.
Yeah, that's
an interesting
Book
phrase.
of Mormon. But yeah, just you could look for our books, and they're at the Strand Bookstore here in New York. So
cool. Around this area, kind of.
Yeah.
You can listen to the podcast, or you can follow the podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/OMGBible, Twitter at OMGWTFBible. We're on Tumblr, OMGWTFBible.tumblr.com, or just OMGWTFBible.com. You can listen to it on Stitcher, iTunes, any podcast app, really. Please share the show with other people, with your priests, your rabbis, your grandparents, your children, strangers you meet on the train. Just tell everyone about it, because spread it through word of mouth. If you like the show, please rate and review us on iTunes. If you don't, keep it to yourself. Or send me a crazy message, because I like to read them on the show. That's it. I want to thank Megan Gray at the Magnet Theater for letting us do this, Emily Shapiro, our audio engineer, John Passaro, Wendy Chin for making our posters, Phil for being here. Let's just hear it for him. Yeah. Our live audience, thank you so much for being attentive to the show. And of course, you for listening. Please be sure to join us if you're in New York for episode 15 with Chris Hastings. It's going to be at Beauty Bar on November 25th at 9:30 p.m. Though the event starts at 9, it's going to hit the internet on December 2nd. And make sure to listen or be here, because next time in the Bible,
a whole lot of kissing.